Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we do another deep dive into Tubi. And with that, let's get to the list.
ลองทายดูสิว่ากูคือใคร
The Medium is a 2021 Thailand-South Korean mockumentary folk horror movie. Directed by Bin-Jong Pisatthanakin, it stars Naraya Gomopopach, Sawani Utuma, and Puna Patti. It's a horrifying story of a shaman's inheritance, and what could be possessing a family member might not be the goddess they make it out to be. This is one that really has flown under the radar the last few years, and I think it's really good, especially if you're a fan of mockumentary, documentary type of found footage-ish movies, because this is one of the better put together. It's really easy to get lost into and feel like you're watching a real documentary. I mean, it is so well done. It just, the way it's shot, the way it's edited together, the different dialogue that happens, it feels so natural and authentic. But it's harrowing. I mean, there are some scenes in this that are absolute nightmare fuel. It's super creepy and demented at times, but also really interesting culturally because you see a different part of the world and how they deal with things along these lines. You know, like we've seen a lot of religious horror where they have things to do with, you know, the Catholic Church and exorcism, demons, stuff like that. But to see this part of the world and just how they see things of this nature in a different light is interesting. And then on top of that, the way they do the horror elements and the directions that it takes, it's just an interesting movie. So when I saw they dropped it on Tubi this week, I got really excited because I was like, man, more people need to see this movie. So if you have yet to see The Medium, do yourself a favor and check it out.
All I think is that I love you.
Bones and All is a 2022 cannibal horror movie. Directed by Luca Guadagnino, it stars Taylor Russell, Timothy Chalamet, and Mark Rylance. The plot's about a pair of young cannibals who flee together on a road trip across the country and develop feelings for each other.
I came looking for you. I smelled you.
You can smell me half a mile away. Can you do that?
Not that far.
I got rules. Never, ever eat an eater.
I've been raving about this movie since I saw it in theaters back when it came out. This movie is so good. And it's amazing to me, with as huge of a name as Timothy Chalamet has become now, that this movie still doesn't get enough attention. I don't get it. And all I can think of is that the horror audience, which is really the ones that would appreciate and enjoy this movie the most, hear romance and they're just like, yeah, that's not going to be my cup of tea. But I'm telling you, this movie is still very thick in the horror world. There are some super demented, very creepy, uncomfortable, and just bizarre, twisted things that this movie does. But on top of that, it's extremely well directed, well put together. Luca Guadagnino is a fantastic filmmaker that I don't necessarily love all of the movies he makes, but his directing style, the way his movies look, and the pacing and flow of them is exceptional. But on top of that, the performances here are amazing. Of course, Timothy Chalamet is brilliant in this. I mean, the guy really is a gifted actor in everything he puts himself into. He really commits to all the roles that he does. But on top of that, Taylor Russell is really an up-and-coming performer that I really hope we see more of, because in roles like this, she is fantastic. The emotions that she has to go through, the roller coaster ride, on top of that, the weird physical performance elements in this movie are also special. But the person that really stole the show for me in this is Mark Rylance. Holy fuck, he's a great villain. I mean, just so good, because from the beginning, when you first see him, there's this slimy, uncomfortable quality that just absolutely makes your skin crawl. And then it continues to ramp things up with him until he is absolutely terrifying by the end. But if you're a fan of artfully done, dark, demented, bleak horror movies, this is one you definitely need to see.
We want all of this. Oh my God!
Nightcrawler is a 2014 psychological thriller, written and directed by Dan Gilroy in his directorial debut. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Rene Russo, and Bill Paxton. A con man desperate for work muscles into the world of LA crime journalism and blurs the line between observer and participant to become the star of his own story.
Excuse me, I have something you'll be very excited about.
You have a good eye. I want you to contact me when you have something.
Something like this.
Think of our newscast as a screaming woman running down the street with her throat cut.
I love this movie. I am such a huge fan of it. It is definitely my favorite performance from Jake Gyllenhaal. And he's done a lot of great performances, so, I mean, I'm not just saying that. Like, just the demented, weird, likable, and yet very unlikable at the same time way that he plays this role is just amazing. But it's also fascinating because they do such a good job of showing this world, because it's a real world. This is a real thing that goes on. Recently, there was all these riots and protests and things like that going on in LA, and I was keeping up to date with the news of it in the way that I prefer, which is not to watch any network TV or any real news broadcast, but to watch YouTubers that are actually on the scene showing what it's actually like wherever the situation's going on. And I was following a couple guys that are basically like this. They're hired guns, they are hired by different people, and they pay them for the footage, the pictures, whatever that they get of these crime scenes, of these car crashes, whatever. And it really is so well shown in this movie. Like, it really feels very close to the real thing. And from what I know, they did a lot of research with that. Like, Jake Gyllenhaal even did ride-alongs and worked with different news people, and so he really did his homework for this, but you can feel it. But where this movie goes and dips its toes into the horror world, and definitely in the psychological thriller world, is how twisted and dark and competitively demented this world can get. And as this movie goes, it gets more and more intense, but more and more just weird and uncomfortable. You feel like you're a fly on the wall at seeing things that you're not quite sure if what's being committed is a crime, but it definitely is morally questionable. And then ultimately, not gonna spoil things, but the direction that it takes, it definitely goes over the deep end. But I think this movie is great, and if you have yet to see it, it's one that I highly, highly recommend.
Room 17, do not be 1 minute late.
Don't open the door! Don't open the door!
Joyride is a 2001 psychological thriller. Directed by John Dahl, it stars Paul Walker, Steve Zahn, and Lily Sobieski. Three young people on a road trip from Colorado to New Jersey talk to a trucker on their CB radio, but then must escape when he turns out to be a psychopathic killer.
Who the hell is it?
We had a little incident here last night. The victim was staying in room 17.
What happened to him?
Ripped his jaw clean off.
Here's one that did get quite a bit of buzz for a while, especially because Paul Walker became such a big star, and this movie kind of like elevated its level of popularity somewhat, I think, because of that. But I also feel like it's one that's been a little bit lost to time, and you don't hear very many people mention it when you're talking especially about psychological thrillers. And this one is such an intense, exciting, fun thrill ride. And it also feels like something that could actually happen and probably has happened to a certain level. I mean, of course, this is a movie, so it turns things up, but the idea of this makes sense. These stupid teenagers playing a goofy prank, so to speak, like messing around with people, and someone taking it too serious and taking it eventually, way too far. But the cast is really fun in this, and it was great seeing Paul Walker for one, because unfortunately he passed away a while back, but the other performers too, they've all gone on to do different things, but it's just fun to see them all in this early 20s, late teens era, and they're just so charismatic and entertaining and feel like real friends. It's just a fun time, and then it turns into this really intense nail biter that keeps you on the edge of your seat to the very end. So if it's been a while since you've seen Joyride, or if you've never seen it, I think it's one you definitely need to add to your list.
I'm scared.
There's nothing to be scared of.
It's all
In.
Voyagers is a 2021 sci-fi thriller, written, co-produced, and directed by Neil Berger. It stars Ty Sheridan, Lily Rose Depp, and Archie Renault. A crew of astronauts on a multi-generational mission descend into paranoia and madness, not knowing what is real or not.
There's a toxin in the water. It's coming from us. Are we eating something toxic?
It's the blue. It's medication.
This is one of those movies that could have been even better, and I think much more people would know about it, and it would have gotten a lot more attention. It is not a perfect movie, though, and it does have some flaws and things that kind of hold it back from being truly great. But I still think it's entertaining as hell, and especially if you're a fan of sci-fi thrillers. And this is definitely more in this sci-fi direction than it is in a horror direction. But it gets pretty twisted and thrilling, especially towards the end. But there's a lot of psychological elements that I enjoy about this, where a lot of kind of mystery and things as you go along and trying to figure out what is going on and what is the reality of the situation and stuff. But it also has a really good young cast who are definitely all people we're going to see a lot more of over the next number of years, especially Lily Rose Depp, who we saw last in Nosferatu. But just in general, the entire cast are all people you'll recognize from different TV series or movies or whatever, but they all really commit to the roles, really throw themselves into this. And on the surface, it just looks like another movie with a bunch of attractive CW teens kind of deal. And it's like, you know, not necessarily worth your time, but it does have some teeth and it does get pretty dark and twisted and intense, especially towards the end of this. But it's also not one to overly think or take super serious. It really is a popcorn type of movie that you just kind of gotta relax and just enjoy what it is. Because if you're overly critical, you probably won't dig this. But as long as you just kind of go into it with an open mind, I think this one's very entertaining. Great White is a 2021 Australian survival horror movie. Directed by Martin Wilson, it stars Katrina Bowden, Kimi Sukuyoshi, and Aaron Jukabinko. A flight turns into a nightmare for 5 passengers when their seaplane is destroyed in a freak accident, and they are trapped on a raft with man-eating sharks below.
We're sinking fast.
So this is one that I'm recommending for the fans of shark movies, especially being that it's summertime and it just feels like that summer shark week vibe this time of year. I always like to recommend at least 1 or 2 shark movies over the summer. And this is one that is not a game changer. It is not doing a lot of things that you haven't really seen done before. It just does all of that pretty well. Like the way it looks, I think it's fantastic. The sharks look good in it. There's some actual real shark footage in it. The cast do a great job. It gets gory at times and brutal. It's exciting and intense. It's just as far as a shark movie goes, it's a very entertaining one. But like I said, for the shark lovers out there, this is a fantastic pick.
Get out of my way.
It's all part of the menu.
It's okay.
No, we're gonna die tonight.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
The Menu is a 2022 black comedy horror movie. Directed by Mark Mylod, it stars Ralph Fiennes, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Nicholas Hoult. The story focuses on a group of diners at an exclusive restaurant who discover the celebrity chef intends to kill them all before the night is through.
He's not just a chef, he's a storyteller. The game is trying to guess what the overarching theme of the entire meal is gonna be. You won't know till the end.
I love this movie, but I also understand that this is not everybody's cup of tea. For one, black comedy just doesn't work for everyone. A lot of people take it too serious and don't really get that type of humor, and that's fine. Like, different strokes for different folks kind of deal. But for the right audience, this movie works so well. It's not only funny, it's poignant, and the things that it talks about and deals with and the critical eye, so to speak, that it puts on any artist who see themselves above others, and also on us consumers who take advantage of and just expect, you know, that we almost own people when we pay them money for their service, you know, that kind of thing. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of other layers to this, especially in the restaurant industry. And there's definitely a ton of it that is above my pay grade, so to speak. But in general, I just think the performances are fantastic in this. Everybody is interesting, entertaining, and unique. It's a well-written movie. It looks incredible. They hired a real 5-star chef to make plate the food and make these dishes so that they would be as authentic as possible, and it shows. I mean, each one of the dishes that they make, I feel like you're watching some kind of high-end food show on Netflix or something. It just makes it that much more believable and authentic feeling. But it also gets a bit silly and wild and over the top, which is entertaining to me as well. I just think it's a great time, but like I said, it's just a movie that I know didn't work for everyone, and that's fine. Like, everybody's got a different taste in things. But if you have yet to see this and what I just said about it sounds intriguing to you, I think you definitely need to give it a look.
They always run things.
The Conspiracy is a 2012 found footage horror movie, written and directed by Christopher McBride. It stars Aaron Poole, James Gilbert, and Julian Richings. A documentary about conspiracy theories takes a horrific turn after the filmmakers uncover an ancient and dangerous secret society.
That's what Terrence is looking into. Has anyone ever tried to infiltrate one of these meetings?
Here's a really cool one. I think it is fun, especially if you're someone that enjoys watching different conspiracy type of shows and reality shows, documentary, things like that, like I am. I don't necessarily buy a lot of the conspiracy theories, but some of them I do. And I think there's a kernel of truth to a lot of them. But like I said, I don't necessarily buy it all. But this is fun because this is almost like a thought experiment. This is like if you were watching a documentary about these cabals and these conspiracies and all this stuff, and it happened to be real, and they just kind of go down this rabbit hole and find out more and more, and it just gets twisted and dark and weird, but it's done in such a good way, especially the setup of it, that it feels like you're watching an authentic, real documentary. It's an intense nail biter and really one that I think is a lot of fun. So if you have yet to see this, I think it's absolutely worth your time.
I want to let me out of here now. That's why they chose us. And they all look.
Escape Room is a 2019 psychological horror movie. Directed by Adam Robitel, it stars Taylor Russell, Logan Miller, and Deborah Ann Wool. The story's about 6 strangers who find themselves in a maze of deadly, mysterious rooms and must use their wits to survive.
Is it getting hotter? How do we get out of here?
It's Fahrenheit 451. Got it!
I adore this movie. I just think it's so much fun. Unfortunately, the sequel to it, it wasn't as good. It's not a horrible watch. I think it's still entertaining, but this one's actually really solid. I really like the characters, the different situations they're in. I think a big chunk of that, though, is Taylor Russell, like I was talking about with her in Bones and All. She is a fantastic actor that I think has a super bright future. But this was the first time I had seen her in anything, and she's just got so much charisma, and she's interesting, and you could see that she's really committing to this role, and it feels authentic because of that. But what makes this movie magic and fun and definitely worth seeing is the different rooms, because it's got elements of Saw in it and elements of like Final Destination, but they're put into these different weird escape rooms. And so you find yourself with this cast like trying to solve these different puzzles in these rooms and figure out how this ties to this, and it's just fun to see it unwrap and unfold in front of you. It's very, very entertaining. But I know a lot of people saw this back when it came out, and it was a pretty decent sized hit, a lot more than anybody expected it to be. But I also know that there are newcomers to horror and just you can't see everything. But if you haven't seen this, especially with it being on Tubi right now, I think it's a fantastic time to check it out.
watching the skies.
I know why they're here.
Start watching your back. Charlie Sheen, Ron Silver, The Arrival.
The Arrival is a 1996 sci-fi thriller written and directed by David Tubi. It stars Charlie Sheen, Lindsay Krause, and Leon Rippey. An astronomer discovers intelligent alien life, but the aliens are keeping a deadly secret and will do anything to stop him from learning the truth. I think this is such a fun movie. It is one of those, like I always try to end my list with, not anything to take serious, just very much a fun popcorn kind of watch. And it has a lot of the cheesy special effects and some of the stuff, like I said, just it doesn't quite hold up, so it isn't one to take overly serious. But there's also some really creative ideas here, very fun, imaginative stuff. And also, once you get past that, maybe some of the acting isn't the top shelf level and some of the special effects are a little bit dated. Once you get past that, there's actually a really good story here, and it gets twisted and mysterious and creepy, and these aliens, the look of them, the style of them, even though, like I said, some of the special effects don't really hold up, they're still very creative and interesting. On top of that, man, I mean, I know Charlie Sheen has had its moments of craziness and this and that, but as a performer, he is so fun to watch, especially when he was kind of at this point where he was still kind of near the top. But like I said, it's not one to overthink or take super serious. It's just one to be entertained by and have fun with. So I think it's a perfect pick for this Saturday night. So do yourself a favor this weekend, pick one of the movies off of this list, grab your popcorn and your candy, and enjoy! And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, guys, horror can be fun. And I'll see you all next time.